We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both die-hard Packers fans.
I could talk about this for hours.
He was my legend. He was my quarterback one. Taysom Hill, forever in my heart.
We have a kind of a reputation of being the young and die-hard fans. How was that, Dr. Pepper Taysom?
Amazing.
Okay, good. Let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
Bloody hell, mate. Welcome to London Week. This is the Underage Packers podcast. Things are about to get absolutely bonkers as the Packers are traveling to London. This crappy English accent is presented to you by Joey here. And joining me, as always, is my mate, Big B. How you doing today?
Wow. Oh, my.
I want to get some feedback on that. Let me know if it was good or if I will end up being memed for the rest of the eternity for my English accent.
I will not let that die. I promise you that.
You know what's sad is I actually looked up English accent to use in that intro.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure.
Yeah.
12
If you
o'clock
can.
at night, Googling it, looking at all the
yeah.
YouTube videos. I know you.
Yeah. And I've taken pride in my English accent for quite some time now. But if you can't tell, the Green Bay Packers are traveling to London for the first time in franchise history to play a game against the New York Giants. Should be a good time for some American football, all right? So, I see a lot of people are kind of cranky about this game being played in London. And, especially when it was first announced, people were mad that Green Bay was going to lose a home game, even though they're still getting the 8, thanks to the new rule the NFL implemented, where the 9 games, the 9 home games for one conference, and only the 8 for the next. You know the rules. But the Packers are the last team to get out to London, and also, hey man, ever since our messy breakup in 1775, with the UK or Britain, Britain has given us quite a bit, right? They've given us the Beatles. They've given us Freddie Mercury and Queen. They've given us, what are some good? There has to be some good British food, right? They've given us all of that. They've given us Mark Oldacres. They've given us Daire Carragher. Some great Packers minds. So it's time we let them see our great game of Green Bay Packers football out there, all right? They deserve to get a look at that, right? So London fans are in for a treat this week. So that's why we wanted to talk to 2 of our friends who I just mentioned, Mark and Daire, 2 diehard Packers fans, and have taken it to another sense, considering they are in a country that does not get much Packers coverage, countries where they have to stay up very late or very early, if you want to look at it that way, in the morning to watch their Green Bay Packers. So we wanted to talk to them today, get their sense, get their excitement for the Packers finally being in Green Bay. So let's start it off. We'll be talking with Daire, then we'll recap the Patriots game a little bit, then we'll talk to Mark, and then we'll look ahead to the Giants game. So it should be a fun time. Let's head right into it. We are now here with Daire Carragher, joining us as our first international fan we're talking to for London week. Although, Daire, you're not really from London. Where are you from again? Is it near Ireland?
I am from Ireland, yes.
Okay.
I'll be making the trip over to London, but yeah, it feels like a home game, even though I have to go on a plane at 4 a.m. in the morning to get there. It's about as good as we can do here in Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I always admire your work, and you're pretty much everywhere. So where can people find your work on Twitter, and then just all the stuff you write as well?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. Just look up D-I-I-R-E. There are too many Daires on Twitter, so you'll probably find me somewhere there. My name is the same as my username, and you can find my articles on 24/7 Sports at PackerReport.com.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, your articles are always great, and I don't know how you even find the time really to not only watch all 22 and then clip it and then have all the articles about it. I could not find the time for that.
I don't have the time, Joey. I just pretend I do have the time.
Do not sleep is the only solution.
All right, the first question is, how did you first become a Packers fan living all the way in Ireland?
All right, so that's a question that I can't really answer too well because me, like most people, we just kind of fell into the sport in a very natural way.
Mhm.
I mean, I can give you a rough year. It was after the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Like you guys, I never got to see the Packers win the Super Bowl, so we're still holding out on that. It was around 2011 when I first started watching the NFL, and I don't know what led me to the Packers, but I would occasionally just, pick up a few games here and there, whatever was on TV. Obviously, the sport's grown so much in the decade since, but in terms of choosing the Packers, it wasn't more so. I don't really remember how I chose them to begin with, but I remember how I stuck with them. And the reason I stuck with them was because of Aaron Rodgers. It's pretty simple. It's pretty basic. There's no. I wish I had like a cool story to give about like how I first got into the Packers. Like there was no one moment. It was just like, oh, this guy's so good at the sport. I'm just gonna keep supporting this team. So it kind of just went from there.
Interesting. Now, I like what you added in there about how it's grown over there in the past few years. And I was going to ask you, like, the NFL has pushed it so hard in the past decade of their international games. Do you think they've been successful in growing the game over there?
Incredibly successful. It's one of the most admirable things that the NFL has been able to do is they have grown their sport here more than any other sport. I mean, Formula One is getting really big here, but between Formula One and the NFL, those sports are just rising and rising year on year. I mean, the growth since 2019 or so hasn't just been quite as big. There was a boom there from about 2015 onwards, and then like it kind of took off with obviously there's so many Patriots fans over here. Everyone just loves Tom Brady, and then Mahomes and that kind of younger generation just gave it that further boost. And like at the moment, the sport is huge. I mean, tickets for this Packers game are going at $300, is about as cheap as a ticket as you can find. And that might not sound like much in America, where you've got Daire, naturally Daire tickets, but like you can get to most like Premier League soccer games here for about $30 or roughly thereabouts. So it's crazy the way the sport's grown here. I know a lot of American fans aren't overly like these UK games they think I don't want to wake up early and all. They mean so much to the fan base over here. Like people here have been counting down the days to this ever since it was announced back earlier in the year. They call week one Viking Super Bowl week. This is UK Packers Super Bowl week. We have to win this game.
Yes. Interesting. There is something ironic about what you mentioned there about there being a bunch of Patriots fans in London. There's something a little ironic about that.
Yeah.
But I do think how you mentioned how you fell in love with the team and stuck with Packers being Aaron Rodgers and the Super Bowl. I think the Packers, I mean, would you say that they're one of the biggest teams over there just because of their success and the Super Bowl at 2011?
Yeah, the Packers are. I mean, there's a group of, I would call them almost blue blood NFL franchises. So like you got the Patriots, the Steelers, the Packers, Dolphins, 49ers. Those teams are always going to have a massive draw over here. The Giants do as well, just because New York is a massive market. It's on the East Coast.
Right.
So those are the teams that really have generate a big fan base. I would actually say that since this is the Packers' first time in London, all other 31 teams have already played in London. The Packers are the last. I think that you're probably going to see on Sunday one of the biggest like individual team supports come out, because those London games are very heavily neutral. Fans of all teams who just like the sport will go over and watch no matter who's playing. But Packers fans are going to show up on Sunday because they haven't had the chance to do so before. So yeah.
Yeah. The Super Bowl, I know it made Mark Oldacres, who we're going to talk to later in this episode. I'm pretty sure that's what made him a fan, and it made Harry Styles a fan. So it clearly had a big impact.
The two best looking guys in England.
Of course. Yeah. So, obviously one thing is the time difference over there. And, it's easy for me to complain about, 12 o'clock games feeling too early and then I'm tired for the rest of the day, or 7 o'clock games go until 11 o'clock. I mean, from your perspective, I'm a baby complaining about those times. So like, does your family judge you for staying up to like 2 or 3 o'clock for most games?
I mean, I don't think they care. It's kind of just, you do you if
Yeah.
that's really what you're into. But I've always been a strong believer, and I really, really like the time NFL games are played over here, because nothing's ever in the way of it. And it's an unpopular opinion, but like, when you have a Packers game at 1:30 a.m. in the morning, yeah, sure, it's going to be terrible when you have to wake up tomorrow morning, but there is nothing that could possibly get in the way of you watching that game. You have nothing else to do at 1:30 a.m. So I've actually always liked it in that sense that, this is just the sole focus. And I don't mind the noon games for you guys start at 6 p.m. here, which is a relatively nice time as well on a Sunday night. You're not usually going to be doing too much at that time.
Yeah.
So I like the way it doesn't, you're never really working, or you've never got anything in the way of a Packers game. And so that's always been something that I'll die on that hill, that I actually like the times that they are over here. It's going to be weird, 2 p.m. over here on a Sunday. I'm not going to be used to watching NFL that early in the day. So that might take some adjustment. I might need to wake up a little earlier.
Yeah, that's one thing that I have never thought about, but it is such a good point, because the gymnastics I have to do to be able to make sure my schedule is completely clear on Sundays for a span of 4 months is a havoc.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, although it sucks you get like no sleep, your sleep schedule is completely messed up for 4 or 5 months. It's completely worth it. At least it would be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So looking ahead to this game, I know you mentioned that you were able to get tickets. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I'm getting into the press box for it. Shout out Ross Uglum and PackerReport.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I got that news recently, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so it'll be my first time in the press box. I'm probably gonna know everybody, and they're not gonna know me, so I might just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm going. I'm going over with a few of my friends are also going, and they're watching in the crowd, so that'll be fun.
That is incredible. Shout out to Ross, man. That is awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would love to be in the press box and just like pretend like I know what I'm doing. like
pretend to be working.
yeah. I would just like try to fit in, but the whole time I'd be fangirl and be like, oh my God, Rob Domofsky is right behind me.
It's Max Schneidman.
Man, that is awesome. Like, are you gonna like wear a suit, or are you just gonna go in there with a Packers jersey and not even care?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I can't wear team apparel, so I'm probably gonna have to keep it with like a shirt or something. I mean, if I would go in there in my Jair jersey, like with a big cheese head on my head, I think I might get a few looks from Schneidman and Dubovsky and those kind of guys. I don't know what they think of that.
But for sure, you might. Well, you just gotta like wear a suit in, and then like you act like, okay, now that we're inside, not cold anymore. Let me take my jacket off and reveal my Jair Alexander jersey. That would be phenomenal. All right, now looking ahead to this actual game here, as we're recording this, we're still a week and a day out here. The Packers haven't even played their game against the Patriots yet, so not too much we can look ahead to this Giants game for. But I wanted to get all of our thoughts so far on the season, 3 weeks in, on one thing that has been a pleasant surprise with the Packers for us, and then one thing that has been a disappointment. So something we had higher expectations for. Big B, what's your answer on both of those?
Biggest surprise is honestly probably the special teams. I expected them to be a lot better with hiring Rich Bisaccia, but they have been actually not terrible this year. And I think they're 11th in DVOA, I think, from 32 last year. So that is my biggest surprise. Most disappointing is, and nothing is really disappointing to me because I expected the offense to be coming out with a slow start. Defense, I guess, in the first 2 weeks weren't up to the standard, but that Tampa game, they really showed how dominant they can be.
Yeah, I'll start off with most disappointing, and I'll say Aaron Rodgers. We're only 3 games in, but so far he just has not had a great game. So still looking for that one. Not have played like an MVP quite yet. Most surprising, I would agree with you on special teams. And I'll also say the defensive line. has been a pleasant surprise for me, even though they showed promise in the preseason. So far, they have been great. Kenny Clark is having one of his best starts to a season, so really looking forward to what the defensive line can do. Daire, what's your answer to these two?
Well, I'll start off with biggest surprise, and yeah, I think everyone would go with special teams there. Just to change it up, I would go with Keyshawn Nixon just from that last game. He was really, really good when he came in, and if he can have like a Rasul Douglas type season, like the same as Rasul did last year, I don't know. Obviously, we're speaking from the past here. I don't know if he played instead of Daire on Sunday against the Patriots. But Nixon, I mean, I know it was only one game, but so many positive signs there. He's also been tremendous on special teams. Then for the biggest disappointment, I would probably just go tackling on defense overall. This was a unit that was probably about top 5 in tackling last year. I think I tweeted something out about Devondre Campbell missed like 3 tackles last year, and he's already missed 2 or maybe even 3 already. So, those guys haven't been. I thought that was something I really praised Joe Barry about in his first year, is how well he got them tackling. An infamously bad tackling team, the Packers are. So a little bit of regression there, but hopefully that'll pick up soon.
Yeah, I was thinking about tomorrow's game, and I'm like, shoot, if like Aaron Rodgers has a season-ending injury in the Patriots game, I hate to even put that out in the universe. Then then people are going to be very confused why we are not in a very grim tone in this interview.
Yeah, if Aaron Rodgers goes out with an injury 7 days before my first ever Packers game, you mightn't hear from me for a long, long time.
Yeah, that same thing happened to me in 2017, but for you it'd be much worse since you've been waiting for just the opportunity your whole life. Hey, at least you get to see Jordan Love and not Brett Hundley. That might be a little bit better of a showing.
That's true. Yeah, you got subjected to Brett Hundley. I don't wish that on any man. I mean,
yeah. Well, and hey, I mean, against the Giants, they might still have a decent chance with Jordan Love, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely could. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Daire, for joining us. It was a great time.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Joey, Big B. I mean, it's going to be a fun one on Sunday. I can't wait to get seeing people that I've just known online for a long, long time. And hope you guys can hack the early start to get up, and hope you guys don't sleep in.
We'll make it. That will be the earliest I wake up, because I do not want to wake up like 5 minutes before the game starts. I need to have time. I'll probably get some coffee in me, and then that way by halftime I can have a Dr. Pepper. So that will be the earliest I wake up in quite some time on a weekend. Okay, so this game against the Patriots, man, my heart was racing for pretty much that whole second half. Would you say, Big B?
Yeah, I was stressing out. I could feel my heart rate just going up and up and up, and I think it reached like a whole new level, like actually.
Yes, skyrocketing. I know you sent me a meme like a few years ago that being a Packers fan like takes years off of your life and the damage it does to your brain. And man, that was too stressful to be going up, not against Brian Hoyer, but against Bailey Zappers, right? Like, what in God's name is going on in that game? And there are so many frustrating aspects of it. The main one is with Joe Barry and his defense, right? Like, you are going up against this third string quarterback making his first ever appearance, his first ever NFL action at all. And I just don't understand this. Joe Barry and Mike Pettin do not make the defense adjust to them. They don't dictate, as Aaron Nagler would say. They are, virtually letting the offense gel them, play like them, like they're fifth graders playing with slime. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but they're letting the other team gel their defense, allowing the offense to tell them what to do instead of making the offense do what they want them to do. All right. And like, Andy Herman brought up, and, it's a very obvious point, but you're going up against Bailey Zapp. And honestly, you play, like, I know it isn't as simple as flicking the X button on the PlayStation, and boom, you got a run defense play, or you got a pass defense play. I know it's not as simple as that, but I just don't understand why you don't go, full pass, or how do I want to word this? Full run defense, stop Damian Harris, who was running outside, was able to beat the guys that were supposed to stop him, able to beat Devondre Campbell and Rashawn Gary just from pure speed on the outside runs. Why don't we do everything in our power to prevent that? And then, hey, if Bailey Zapp wants to take advantage of us, go right ahead, Bailey. Take your shot, man.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're in the second half and it comes down to overtime. It comes down to the defense having to stop the offense of the Patriots driving 20 yards into field goal range from winning this game. What are we doing? And there was just so many collapsing points from the Packers. As many people have brought up, the Aaron Rodgers interception turns a lot of things over, because even though they weren't playing their best game, if he doesn't throw that one, the Packers play such a different game in the second quarter. And kind of like the game against Tampa Bay, just that Aaron Jones fumble completely switches the tone, completely switches the game plan. And if that hadn't happened, the Packers probably win both those games easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, Big B, any other highlights or failures you wanted to highlight from the Packers in this game?
Man, not really many other failures that come to mind, but like Rashawn Gary was a man on a mission. Like that dude was absurd. He was wrecking people.
Yeah. I need to. So you see, I got this poster
Mhm.
of Rashawn, which is just really a calendar cutout that I use that doesn't even fit in the frame right.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And I admire it every day. All right. I need one of those like praying candles that Maggie Loney had of Darius Smith, unfortunately. I need one of those with Rashawn Gary on it, and I would pray to it every night, I gotta say.
Yes, that'd be
Like,
dope.
yeah. It is incredible to watch him play out there. And it seems like every dominant performance he has, a lot more people come out and say, look, I was wrong on Rashawn Gary. And it's great to see each and every one of those. And he is definitely a good lesson, a good telling story, a good warning against judging draft decisions, judging players that were drafted, way too soon. All right. And then I saw these very same people, we saw, who was it? Who's the guy from EA that always has awful Packers take? Is it Marcus Whitman? Is that his name? But Marcus Whitman, he made a lot of noise on Packers Twitter, and he said the Packers spent 2 first-round picks on a linebacker who, per PFF, doesn't rank as a starting caliber player, and a defensive tackle who has gotten 1 pressure in 4 games as a 4th-string player. Oh my God, the irony of pointing out that he's only gotten 1 pressure in 4 games, pointing out that stat, and then saying he's a 4th-string player because that's how the Packers roll with their rookies. That's funny. They also gave up 2 second-rounders for a wide receiver who can't catch or see the field. I'm pretty sure Christian Watson is not blind, so I'm pretty sure he can see the field. Yes, there is still time for these players to turn into something, but everyone knew this had to be an impact class, and it hasn't been. It hasn't been on October 6th of 2022. Oh, my God. Like, I know I'm just pointing out, and I'm getting way too mad at just this one guy who really doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to the Packers. I'm getting way too mad at this one take from him, and I'm kind of spiraling right now.
You are.
But I cannot believe how we have this cautionary tale of Rashawn Gary right in our face in that very game, killing it out there when the Packers got so much flack because they were in a world of problems because they had 2 great outside linebackers and they didn't have time to play Rashawn Gary because it would have made no sense. God forbid that they had to play the Smith brothers in their greatest year together, right? I cannot believe how much foresight or, the ability to think past 1 year these people have. And, the Packers, we get this same, crap every year that this had to be an impact cast. Why aren't these Packers rookie making an impact immediately? But that's simply not how the Packers move. That's not how they operate, right? And some people don't want to accept that because it is such a deviation from the rest of the league besides Pittsburgh, kind of Baltimore, really. So I don't, man. I can't believe that people are already wanting to rule out Quay, wanting to rule out Watson, who's had a really tough start to his rookie year. But that's that. We'll see how those Packers rookies are developing near the end of the season. And hey, if our thoughts are still the same as they are right now on them, then hey, that's fine. It's still year one. So anything else? I'm trying to think of that Patriots game. Aaron Rodgers was not great that first half. Brought it out in the second half, though. As I mentioned with our talk with Raw, not kind of disappointed in Aaron Rodgers, but we'll see how he gets moving along the season. There are certain games. I think of the one against Arizona last year too, where he is just off. He cannot hit. I'm missing the phrase right now, but he could not hit. Yes. He's kind of like Kirk Cousins, trying to throw the ball at the gender reveal box in that one video, right? Like, there's some games he has like those, and he's just not on page with any of his receivers. Yeah, on that pick six before the end of half, just a bad decision. I mean, obviously, hindsight 2020 from me sitting in my couch in my basement, but Aaron, hoping for some better stuff. It's a little too early in the season to say he's lost it or he's washed. But hey, at some point the wheels will fall off, right? At some point he's going to look like Drew Brees did at the end of his career, unless Rodgers wants to avoid that and retires early, like he has said he's planning to do. I don't know, man. Not the best of wins against New England, but it doesn't matter how pretty those wins are in October, September, or even November. All that matters is that you get enough so that you're in a good enough position in December to get a good spot in the playoffs. So that's my thoughts on the New England game. Anything else, Big B?
I don't think so.
All right. Then we will head to our talk now with Mark Oldacres. He is from the UK and he's a contributor for Cheesehead TV. So let's start right to that with him. We are now here with our second international fan, and that is Mark Oldacres. You might know him from his contributions to Cheesehead TV. Mark, thank you so much for joining us here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So, first off, this is going to be the question we asked to our three fans that we're having on today is, across the world, how did you become a fan of not only an NFL team, but specifically one that is not in a big city that most British people would be familiar with, like New York or Los Angeles, but in Green Bay, Wisconsin, of all places? How did you become a fan of the Packers?
Yeah, so for me, it was kind of, I'd say just kind of like happenstance, really. So the first NFL game I ever watched was Super Bowl 45. So, because they were kind of like advertising it a lot here, that whichever channel it was like, oh, we've got the Super Bowl this year. So I was kind of like, oh, I want to see what that's about, like what's going on. So so I stayed up and watched most of it. And kind of the way I relate to sports is I can't really do it without like a rooting interest of some sort. Like I kind of have to have, like I can't just sit there generally and be like, oh, I just hope it's a good game. Like that's not really the way I am. So kind of like before the game,
you can't be a Paul Rudd type of fan.
No, exactly. Or what's the guy? What's his name? Who was on Parks and Recreation? Who wore Rob Lowe with the NFL hat? Like, yeah.
Oh, yes, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
So you meant, yeah, I can't do that. So yeah, before the game, I was like, I think they were kind of just talking a little bit about the two teams or whatever, and like I can't even remember why, but I was just like, yeah, I think I want the Packers to win. Like I don't even know why specifically. And then obviously they did win. I didn't end up watching like the end of the game until the next day because this was back when I was still in school, so it was like, well, I couldn't stay up like until would have been like 4:30 or whatever in the morning on a school night, So and that was pretty much it. After that, I started kind of watching the league more, and obviously that's like kind of where my Packers fandom started.
Interesting. So with that, we were talking with Ra. One of the main things we were talking about is how the sport has kind of grown over there in the past few years. So you mentioned that the Super Bowl 45, they were advertising that big. Was that like the first Super Bowl over there that they mainly showed?
No, I think they've kind of shown maybe just specifically the Super Bowl for like quite a long time, but maybe it's just kind of the first time I was really aware of it.
Mm.
I think even going back to as far as like Joe Montana days, like I think that was maybe when they started like showing just the Super Bowl kind of thing.
Okay.
But then like one of the big broadcasters here kind of took on like there's like a now like Sky Sports is our biggest like sports broadcaster, and now there's like a Sky Sports NFL dedicated channel. So like
Interesting.
it's completely grown so much over the years. Like the coverage now is like we'll get a lot of stuff on Sky Sports NFL that's like on NFL Network just or whatever. We'll have like Good Morning Football on and everything like that. And then obviously we get Red Zone on there, and we get like two kind of like highlighted games, one in the early window, one in the late window, and then obviously all the primetime games as well. So yeah, it's grown like a crazy amount, definitely since I started really getting into it about 10 years ago.
Interesting. I know the Packers, just from what I've observed, the Packers are a pretty big team over there. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I think so. I mean, I've been to the NFL games in London kind of a few times in the past. Obviously, it's not been the Packers, but just kind of to get a taste of like actually going to an NFL game. And you see, obviously, kind of you would see the jerseys of like all 32 teams pretty much, but like you would definitely see a lot of Packers fans. Yeah, and obviously there's the UK. UK
Right.
and Irish Packers following here as well. Like the Twitter accounts like really got a good following. So yeah, they're definitely like a really popular team here, and I'm so excited to just see what it's going to be like on Sunday, because I have a feeling like I say I've been to a few of these games, and it's because it's just kind of like mainly people in the crowd who just kind of want to enjoy the game, and they don't necessarily their team probably isn't playing.
Yeah.
They just wanted to go and watch the NFL, but I have a feeling this is just going to literally be like a Packers home game because of how long people have been waiting for it. Not only just like in England, but in Europe, like Germany and stuff like that. And obviously people coming over from the US as well. I can't wait to see kind of like what it's like.
Man, it's going to be exciting.
All right, so when we talked to Daire, he said that he actually likes having the games be like in the middle of the night and like 1 o'clock in the morning start. Now, do you agree with that?
Yes and no. Like it would definitely be easier if that wasn't the case. Like my life would be a bit easier, but I think overall I do enjoy it. Like I always say, like I almost have like I use it from the example of just like social media around the NFL and stuff. I have like 2 Twitter feeds. I have like my daytime Twitter feed, which is like more UK sports, and then like everyone goes to sleep, and then I'm still awake, like consuming everything that's going on with like the NFL and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say I do enjoy it because it's just like it makes it like more of an event for me, kind of thing. Especially if it's like the Packers, like Sunday night football, Thursday night football, whatever. Like I know up until like 5 or whatever, But I enjoy it. Like I would do it whatever time they're playing, so it kind of doesn't really like. I don't really have a choice. Like it is what it is.
Yeah, Duran mentioned that since it's in the middle of the night, there's never anything in the way. So that definitely does seem like a benefit, but obviously losing half of or most of sleep every Sunday for 4 months must suck too. But hey, you got to do what you got to do, and I'm sure it's easier for a team like the Packers compared to the Jets. I don't think there'd be too many people staying up to watch them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if it was staying up in the middle of the night till 4 or 5 a.m. and they were getting whipped every week, that would like not be fun. That would be like that. That's when I would start to question like some life choices. But but since they're generally a pretty successful team, it's kind of worth it. And like I think like Daire said, like there's nothing else going on. Like like obviously there's so much like going on Twitter and stuff as well. Like just the discussion during the game and stuff. Like no, I agree with that.
Now, do any of your like coworkers or friends know that on certain Sunday nights you're going to be staying up for a while? And if so, do they just look at you and understand that the Packers must have had a demoralizing loss early in the morning?
Yeah, well, I think some of my friends kind of like they obviously know like about my Packers fandom and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
sometimes I'll if I'm just like up anyway, like because now the season started, I'm up pretty much like I'll end up just staying up Thursday night or whatever, even if the Packers aren't playing and stuff like that. So if I send just like something that's completely unrelated to the NFL, if I just send something in the group chat that I've seen, and they'll wake up and be like, "You sent this at like 3:30 in the morning. Like, what is it you?" And they're like, "You disgusting. You are
Yeah.
disgusting." So yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's it's like with any of my sports teams that I follow, because obviously I follow like Premier League team and I'm like like baseball and stuff, not so much, but like I think any sports team that you're into, the misery is real when you lose. Like it ruins it just like ruins your entire like day or weekend
Yeah.
in my case. So yeah, I think it's just something people have to get used to around me.
Right. Um, what was I going to ask? You went to Lambeau for the very first time this past December when we met there against the Bears, and did you put out, or was it Tim Backus that wrote an article on Cheesehead TV just describing your experience for the first time there?
Yeah, that was Tim because he wanted to he did a series on like I think it was like Cheesehead Origins or something like that,
Right.
and it was like looking into kind of how people came to the Packers and their different fandoms, and he asked me if I wanted to do it. Obviously being like from the UK and stuff like that, and yeah, so he kind of did an article on that, and he was there too at the game. I don't know if you guys were there at the same time. I think you possibly were, but
Yeah.
yeah, like, and I was hanging out with him before the game too, and that was a good time, and he like recorded like my reaction going into the bowl for the first time, which was
Hmm.
like that was pretty cool. That's nice to have. So yeah, so no, it was good.
Yeah, when I saw that video, I completely understood it because the first time walking through I don't even know what to call it, but like the corridor almost to
Mm.
your seats, like when you exit the mezzanine and go to the seats where it opens up and you can see the field for the first time. That is literally like getting a peek into heaven. It
Mm.
is an indescribable feeling. So, with that, do you think the Packers finally, the last NFL team to come to London, do you think it will be kind of that same experience and an added on level just because the fact that they're playing in your home?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be. I don't think it's going to be different, definitely, because like
Mhm.
obviously going to Lambeau is just like such a special thing because it's Lambeau Field. Like before I went in there, like everybody was saying about when you go in the bowl for the first time, it'll be amazing. And I was kind of thinking like, yeah, like I'm sure it will be, but like I've been to sports stadiums before, like
Yeah,
it's just a stadium, like ultimately, like But then when I walked in there, I was like, no, I totally understand it. So
yep,
obviously it won't be like the same as that because it's just like it's not Lambeau Field, it's like Tottenham Hotspur's, stadium.
yeah,
But I think to see, like I said, I'm expecting there to be like a lot of Packers fans there. So to
hmm,
see kind of like the atmosphere and like just
yeah.
the kind of green everywhere sort of thing, like in where I'm from, well, like that's going to be like really, really cool. So yeah, it'll be like obviously different, but just cool in like a different way.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see all the pictures of the Packers fans there because for everything I've heard, it sounds like it's going to be packed with Packers fans. I'm sure there will be some Giants fans who maybe make the trip over. The Giants have a good fan base, and like I mentioned earlier, they're just a very recognizable U.S. city. So maybe that's something that UK fans latch on to, but cannot wait for this Sunday, and I'm sure you cannot either. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining us here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, that was so much fun with Mark. Obviously, we couldn't get every single Packers international fan on here for this episode. The scheduling thing is difficult enough, so we're able to get Mark into Ross. So hopefully, you guys appreciated those interviews. Um, Great fun time. Now, let's head into our preview of this game against the New York Giants. Be playing at 8:30 a.m. Green Bay time. I'm so excited. I'm heading over to my brother's house to watch this game because he has NFL Network. We don't have the NFL Network here, so we're heading over to my brother's house. My mom is making her famous breakfast casserole for us that we're going to have during the game. A little too early for a Dr. Pepper during the game, but maybe for a victory celebration. I know you like to have Dr. Pepper in place for morning coffee, don't you?
Oh yeah, Dr. Pepper is like the first thing I drink in the morning.
You got like a mini fridge on your nightstand, so before you even out of bed, you can reach
Yes.
for one. Grab one.
Mhm.
Do you
Okay.
even start off with the diet Dr. Pepper, or you go full force at 8 a.m.?
I don't even drink Diet Dr. Pepper, so it's just straight regular Dr. Pepper in the morning.
You brush your teeth with it?
Yes, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're revealing some great things to your dentist here.
I know.
Um,
I'm that diehard of a Dr. Pepper fan.
Exactly. And we still aren't sponsored, and Dr. Pepper still hasn't emailed me to pay all my tuition. Like, what the heck, man? I would love to throw a football into one of those little boxes at halftime of a game.
Yeah, you'd probably do better than half of the people that get on there anyway.
Exactly. And I would come out there and my Dr. Pepper snack helmet, I'd put that on. It wouldn't be necessary, but I'd put that on and I'd get my Dr. Pepper gloves that I have. I got my Dr. Pepper shirt. Like, I'd be set. And they'd all think I'm a freak. But if it gets, tuition, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Back to this game against London, eh? So, heading against the Giants, I would like to say this is a game that Green Bay should absolutely win. They're going up against a very, very injured New York Giants team. This should be a game they should easily win, despite Saquon Barkley or despite the New York Giants being 3-1 and having a pretty good defense. I'd love to say that because on paper they should, but it would be quite ironic for me to say that if you go back and watch the tape per se and listen to our episode last week previewing this Patriots game, we thought this was last week was going to be a steamroll for the Packers at home, and it was not. So now they're traveling overseas, very unfamiliar environment to them, and to the Giants too. They've played there a few times, I'm sure, but it's still an unfamiliar environment, obviously. So, talking about the Giants being banged up. Obviously, they had Daniel Jones go down in that game with a high ankle sprain, I want to say. And then they also had Tyrod Taylor go in there, and then he got injured. So I wasn't able to watch the Giants-Bears game, but Big B, can you confirm that Saquon Barkley was taking snaps out of the wild card at some point in that game against Chicago?
Yeah, Saquon for a few drives. I mean, I was watching Red Zone, but they tuned in a few times, and Saquon was in the I think it's Wildcat. I think it's called. My brain is fried, but yeah, he was back there at quarterback with Daniel Jones out at wide receiver doing absolutely nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is something. So it's not only quarterbacks that the Giants are dealing with injuries. Pretty much a lot of their key players are also injured. You have Kenny Golladay dealing with an injury. You also have Julian Love, a star cornerback for them. You have their second-year offensive tackle, Evan Neal, dealing with a neck injury. Another wide receiver, Kadarius Toney, dealing with an injury. And then the heart of their defense, Leonard Williams, also dealing with an injury. Now, all those guys haven't completely been ruled out yet, but definitely be watching the Giants injury report because if most of those guys can't go, then the Giants don't have a lot of hope outside of their star running back, Saquon Barkley, who is having the best start to any of his seasons in his career. It's been kind of a disappointing start to Saquon's career, has been filled with injuries, but he is currently averaging 115 yards per game and has been the main reason the Giants are 3-1, and their only loss has come to Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys, which is kind of funny. But this is the best start that the Giants have had in quite some time. I can't remember. I watched or I listened to this Giants podcast, which was incredibly boring. It was really boring stuff, but
that poor podcast is taking shots right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to even mention the name, but Really boring podcast. They did say something about, though, that this was the first time in a while that the Giants have had this kind of start. And also, on a random note, this is the first time that two winning teams have played in London ever for the NFL in their expansion. They've been playing in London since 2007. This is the first time they've had two teams with winning records going up against each other. So that's great. Not quite the premier matchup that they're hoping they're for, but that's right. London's never going to get, an end of season match against two great teams. So yeah, the Giants are off to a good start with their new head coach and Brian Dable, who spent a lot of time with the Buffalo Bills, was with the New England Patriots before that, kind of the quarterback whisperer and transforming Josh Allen to this sporadic, inaccurate rookie into MVP caliber player. So, hey, I would be surprised if Dable is able to do the same with the kind of forgotten project of Daniel Jones, the given up on project, if you will. But hey, he's led his team to a great start. They also have Wink Martindale, who was with the Baltimore Ravens for a long time. He is their defensive coordinator. So they have a really interesting team. Kind of interesting to watch them go on their 6th or 7th rebuild attempt, man. So it's unfortunate to see what has happened to New York ever since the decline of Eli Manning. But the only hope for this game for New York is that Saquon Barkley plays and that the Packers play a similar game that they did against the Patriots. And then, hey, they just have to hope they play a better fourth quarter and overtime than New England did, and they're looking all right. So that's pretty much it on our minimal knowledge on the Giants, because they aren't a good team, even though their record says otherwise. But one thing I want to bring up, looking at the Packers here, is Elton Jenkins at right tackle. If you haven't noticed, he's been not good and borderline bad at right tackle, right? Let's not put any sugarcoating on it. He has not been Elton Jenkins at right tackle so far ever since he's come back. And in week 2 against Chicago was just dismissed, kind of swept over under the rug. It's just rust. But now 3 games back in, and he's not looking great. All right. And there has been a lot of talk about possibly throwing Yash out there at right tackle, because if Matt LaFleur wants to stick true to his word, then and putting the best 5 out there, then Elton Jenkins at right tackle seems a lot worse than Yash Nyman at right tackle. And Elton Jenkins, who is an all-pro at left guard, why don't you just slide him in there? And, that even makes sense, because then you take out the weak spot in Royce Newman, you pluck him out of the lineup, and then you can put in the proven starter and John Runyon in there at right guard. But obviously that does have its downsides. Matt LaFleur and Adam Stinovich have both said that they have considered the possibility of moving Yash back to left guard. But they say that they're going to roll with what they got right now, and if a change needs to be made, they won't hesitate. So, hey, interested to see what Elton does. Really want to see him get back to that all-pro form, though, obviously.
Yeah, and on that video, I want to say Ross Uglum put out, it was like replays I put on my Instagram story. Like, you could tell, like, he's actually holding the defensive lineman when he gets beat. Like, he's just not looking that good at right tackle.
Right.
Zach Tom could also be a guy that they put at right tackle. I know that's gonna come with some growing pains. Probably not the move you want to do, especially this part of the season. But that's also somebody else who to consider.
Yeah, and I just don't understand. This has garnered a lot of criticism for the Packers, but they claim, both LaFleur and Stinovich, they claim that they want to cross-train their players, especially on the offensive line, to be able to play multiple positions. And Yash played right tackle for most of college as a Virginia Tech Hokie. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But at Virginia Tech, he played mostly at right tackle. So, he's had a few years in the league now. I don't believe, did we see him at all in the preseason at right tackle?
I don't believe so.
So they exclusively play him and practice him at left tackle. just seems odd to me that never throughout training camp they didn't want to try him out at right tackle because they knew like the depth there is pretty shaky already. So to not train him there is interesting decision to me because now we're relying on this place right now. And, there is an idea that TJ Lane threw out there of wanting to have just one side of your line be perfect, right? Even if you're throwing out a Byron Bell out there at right tackle and right guard, then who cares? Because you got this one side of the line that is really reliable. And especially for Aaron Rodgers, obviously, like a majority of the quarterbacks in the league is right-handed, right? So him having his blind side protected would be great. And he doesn't have any worries about that. Would be phenomenal. So I'm not sure exactly what goes to that thinking. I'm sure if this performance continues to be bad from Elton Jenkins, he'll eventually make some type of move. But right now, it's not looking great. Elton Jenkins at right tackle. We love to have him back out there, man. But Big E's either got to improve or he's got to be moved. All right. All right now. Okay, I'm not that was more Australian, so I'm gonna just stitch it right there. It's gonna end right there. That was so much fun. Thank you so much, Mark and Daire, for joining us, man. Daire put out an article on PackerReport earlier in this week too, where he kind of went more in depth on what it's like to be a Packers fan all the way over there in Ireland. So I highly recommend reading that. I highly recommend following the both of them. As Daire mentioned, he's going to be in the press box for this game, so I'm sure he's going to have some great work coming out of it. Should be a fun time. Having some points, getting some fishing fish and chips down there in London for the Green Bay Packers. I cannot wait to feel the atmosphere through the TV screen and through social media this week. Big B, any other thoughts or comments? Any attempts you want to give at a trash London accent?
Yeah, that was incredible. But Jamal Williams, once again, getting the start. Looks like DeAndre Swift is not going to play. So let's hope for another huge performance from the GOAT.
No, good stuff there.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching our episode on this special London week. We really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow us on all the social medias. And with that being said, we'll talk to you later. As always, go Pack Go, and the Giants are rubbish. All right.